People, I need y'all to hear me out for a second. A lot of people have been waiting for Stephen A. Smith to interview none other than a famous YouTuber named Anton Daniels. And a lot of people got smoke with Anton right now. They're not feeling him. But the man still garnered over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. That's just on YouTube alone. And that's just one channel. He works hard. I give him that. He works really hard. And a man such as myself who does the same, I also work hard. I have to respect that. No matter if I agree or I disagree with him, no matter if other people agree or disagree with him, one thing y'all have to know about me is that I'm not a follower, and that's what I'm here to teach all of y'all not to be. Because there's a lot of followers out there, and you don't know no better. It's cool, though, because I'm here now, and I'm here to teach you how not to be a follower. Anton has a lot of views and points that people don't like, especially when he says them, because I believe he's honest about his opinion. He's honest about what he thinks, and he tries to speak the truth. No one is perfect, so of course we make mistakes. Stephen A., he also makes mistakes as well. Stephen A. is not always 100% truthful. Sometimes he may tell a white lie or a lie unbeknownst to him. That's everyone. We're all human. I didn't even like Stephen A. Smith to begin with, but after watching a few of his episodes, a couple of his shows, more than a couple, I started to agree with some of his points, and I see where he's coming from. He tries to have an unbiased look at the world and at current events. So when I came across this interview that Stephen A. did with Anton Daniels, I decided I needed to do a video on it, check it out, and watch it with y'all as well. And you'll get my commentary on some of the answers that Anton gives. So without further ado, let's see exactly what type of interview this turned out to be.
Anton Daniels, up next. My guest is a Detroit-based YouTuber, business coach, and internet personality with more than 1 million subscribers across his social media platforms, known for his pop culture and conservative viewpoints. Please welcome for the first time the straight shooter, the one and only Anton Daniels. What's up, big time? How are you, man? How's everything?
What's going on, Mr. Smith? How you doing?
Man, please, it's a pleasure to meet you, man. I've been looking forward to talking to you or whatever. First of all, here's what I want to do, because I respect where you're coming from. Even when you get on me, I'm going like this, well, damn, you got a good point. You got a good point. It's no big, it's all love, brother. I'm good with it. Let me ask you this question. How would you describe yourself, particularly in this day and age? Are you a conservative? Or are you just a YouTuber? Are you a podcast? What would you say? What do you want the world to know you believe you are?
I wouldn't define myself as a conservative first. I would define myself as a saint first.
A
right?
saint?
A saint, right? And it's a difference between a Christian and a saint. A saint is a person that believes every word in the word, right? We don't differentiate. We don't pick and choose which part of the Bible we believe. Even if I'm not perfect or I'm not doing everything right, I define myself by my belief in God. That's first, above all. And then everything else comes after that, right? So I am conservative, which I used to be Democrat. I'm not gonna say liberal, but I am a Republican. I'm a conservative Republican. I've been married since I was 22 years old. So I've been married for the better part of 22 years. I'm a father. And then more importantly, I'm a bag chaser. So I'm always gonna do the thing that adds value into people's lives, and I expect to be fairly compensated as a result of it.
And you have to respect that. It is what it is, especially when he broke down to him what he believes a saint and a Christian is, because you do have a lot of people out there who will say they're Christians, but at the same time, they're not living the word. They don't believe in the word, and they pick and choose certain things in the Bible, just like he said, to live by when it suits and fits their narrative, the type of narrative they want to push. Yes, I've seen several people, and you may know people like that. So you can't do nothing but respect that. And of course, he has the bag chaser's hat on because that is his brand. And he says that he's a bag chaser. From what I know and his net worth, he definitely is a bag chaser. And here, we do the very same thing. Please, believe me when I tell you, I'm here to teach y'all how to do the very same thing that he's doing, because I'm on my way to becoming not a bag chaser, but becoming a millionaire myself. So let's go.
You know, when you decided to support Trump in 2024, what was it about the MAGA movement that made you support it? Was it the fact that you are, as you described, or was there something different transpiring in 2024
we're about to get into
that you saw compelled?
Hey, I know some of y'all got TDS. Hold on to your bridges, because I know that it's going to trigger some of y'all. Whether you are a Republican, conservative, Democrat, liberal, it does not matter. I need y'all to stay here and have this conversation, because that's what this podcast is all about. That's what we're here to do. We are here to have those types of conversations that open up your mind. We're here to question everything, not just believe anything.
You to gravitate towards that.
Well, the first thing is I felt like the election was stolen from him in 2020. There's no way that anybody can convince me that Joe Biden is the most popular president of all time and he got over 81 million votes. I'm not going for it. The second thing is that I start to take a deeper look at my own life, right? Because especially as Black people in the community, we taught to automatically vote Democrat regardless because we Black, right?
Yeah.
But when I started to deep dive into the things that Democrats stood for, it wasn't the fact that Republicans or Trump or MAGA first got my attention. The first thing that got my attention is the things that I didn't align with the party that I had been voting for based off of what my family told me to do, right? I don't believe in men and women's bathrooms. I don't believe in, a lot of the stuff, my dollars going to the federal government and letting them manage my money more than I can. I believe in smaller government. I believe in spirituality. I believe in a lot of the things. And so when I started to figure out, what are we doing? Why am I voting this way? I started to explore, what about Trump didn't I like? And I realized that it was more propaganda that was fed to me and that, he was supposedly be racist and all of this stuff. And then I started to evaluate every other president that came before him. And I realized that he's just a quote unquote straight shooter, right? I mean, he just tells it like it is, regardless of whether you agree with him or not. And most of the things that he said, I aligned with.
One of the things I want to push back on you on this notion about the 2020 election from this perspective. I believe that the election was legit, but not for the reasons one would think. I totally agree with you. I don't believe anywhere in hell 81 million people wanted Joe Biden. But I do believe 81 million people wanted anybody but Donald Trump. So because of that, it makes it
I see exactly where Stephen A is coming from. Anton says he doesn't believe it, but what Stephen is saying is that even if people did not like Donald Trump, even if people did not like Joe Biden, they hated Donald Trump. They did not want Donald Trump in office. So what did they do? Instead of going out to the polls and voting independent or Trump, they voted for Biden. Because I have actually heard people say they would rather the lesser of two evils. I heard too many people say that during that election. And so to them, Donald Trump was evil. This is what we were taught. This is what we were fed. Anton said, we were spoon-fed this bullshit. He's racist, he's misogynistic, he's this, he's that, he's everything else under the sun except for a son of God. We believed it. Most people believed it. I even fell victim to it. But then I started doing my own research and I started thinking for myself, which is exactly what Anton Daniels did. So I could see exactly why Stephen A. Smith would believe that the election was won fairly, because it actually does make sense at how many people have TDS now.
Because of that, it made it believable in terms of chaos, how much noise was being made. You know how people were like, you had people celebrating in the streets like, oh my God, we're finally free. You saw how exaggerative and how extra folks were when Trump was put out of office. So I'm saying that to me was emblematic of a lot.
I can see that.
But, okay, Stephen A. So let me push back at you a little bit.
Sure.
Why are Democrats so against voter ID?
Well, hold on. You got to fight me. You along with that. It don't make no. I'm not supporting. Listen, you got to have an ID for everything. Right. I'm with you with that. I mean, I do think it was ridiculous, but I also pay attention to Senator Fetterman, who's been supported for the most part of the Republicans. When Fetterman said, quote, he said certain things about the SAFE Act are a bit extra. Yeah, you essentially got to have a passport, and it is more difficult to get ID, under these restrictions that they're putting out there than it was before. So I do believe that, but that doesn't mean that both sides can't come together and resolve that in a damn day. And for the Democrats to act like no ID should be required or whatever, like California and some of the stuff I learned about them and what they're doing under Gavin Newsom, that is utterly ridiculous. So you and I we ain't far off on that.
Facts.
But that tells me, though, that they're fighting for it for a reason. And I don't believe it's because they really believe that people are being disenfranchised at the polls. I believe that they're fighting for it because they truly believe that it's going to affect whether or not they get elected and future elections. And I believe that the Democrats, their whole strategy, because as people get older and wiser, this is not even my opinion, this is a fact. Most people evolve to become more conservative, and then they sometimes, more often than not, deflect over and to become a Republican, right? When you're younger, that's really a Democrat's game is being, liberal, right? Because you don't know any better. But as people get older and wiser, they never defect from the Republican Party over to the Democrat Party. It's usually the other way around.
The other way around.
So what they have to do is they have to find new voters and new people that support them. And I believe that the civil rights movement was hijacked by feminism. Feminism ultimately was hijacked by the LGBTQ movement, which Obama ushered in, and he solidified that. And then I believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion was ultimately the thing that they really leaned on in order to make sure that they had people in the voter rolls that not only identified as Black, not only identified as Latino, not only identified based off of their sexuality, but they needed a whole new voter class. And I think that immigrants was definitely the plan.
Boom. He just said, he just put it out there, y'all. He just put it out there. I know some of y'all are triggered right now. Some of y'all are angry, you're mad. Hey, I need you to stay with me for a minute. Stay with me now. He just spoke some truth shit. And I need you to put your thinking caps on. Isn't that what they used to tell you back in school? Put your thinking caps on. I need y'all to start thinking for a second. I got mine on right now. If what he says is true about, and I know it's true, because I actually was on the Democratic side when I was younger. I actually was leaning more liberal when I was younger. And then as I got older and started doing research and I started thinking for myself, things started changing. And I started to see that, wait a minute, I align more with this side than I do with that side. The shit they're pushing on this side is definitely not what I agree with, align with. I have morals. They don't have none on that side. So I started to lean more towards one side, and then I started leaning more until I was on the other side. And no one that I know, no one that I've seen, no one that I've witnessed started on the right side and goes to the left. It doesn't happen. I have not seen it. So y'all got to think about something. And Trump did the same thing. He was actually Democrat, people. He was actually Democrat. Trump was talking shit about Republicans at one point in time. Oh, yeah. He was talking cash shit about Republicans. What is he today? He's a Republican, and he's never going back to the Democratic side. Trust and believe. Because, again, you do not go from the right to the left. It just doesn't happen. So when people keep migrating over to one side, right, from the left to the right, what do you have to do every 4 years? You do have to make up the loss. You do have to keep your voter base going, increasing. And the only way for you to do that is to continuously change how things are put into place. Change laws, change voting laws, change the people you allow into the country, because that's exactly what they're doing now. They are leaning on the illegal immigrants to come into the country, give them all these benefits, and then tell them that they don't need ID in order to vote. So, ladies and gentlemen, with your thinking caps on, who do you think they're going to vote for? The people who are saying, no, you need to come in legally, which is the right side, or the people who gave you all this free shit, told you don't need any ID to vote, come to the polls and cast your ballot.
And that's why they're fighting so hard against voter ID.
But I don't disagree with most of that. What I'm saying is we can point to things that the Republicans do, the conservatives do, to position themselves for the same thing. For example, when you're redistricting in Texas, for example, and other places, you're doing that because you want to position yourself to get most votes.
Absolutely.
This is politics. This is politics.
Absolutely.
So in other words, we can't hate on one side for coming up with a mechanism, you understand, to curry more votes in your favor.
We have to, Stephen A. And the reason that we have to is
Why?
because it's one thing to, you said it yourself. I can't even jump on an airplane unless they identify who I am. I can't I can't get a place to stay. I can't get a car. I can't get anything. The laws that ultimately govern us. Like if that isn't the thing that we need to protect more than anything else, in our culture, in our society, I don't know what is. So we have to be vigilant to make sure that
I have to
every
agree.
vote is valid and every vote is counted. And
I have to
we can't
agree.
just let, mail-in ballots or people being able to, I say gaslight us. And I believe in that, this election is free and fair when it's not. And I don't believe that that's what happened in 2020.
Well, let me tell you this too.
To shovel.
No.
In case y'all don't know what Stephen A. is talking about, Mayor Mamdani, the mayor of New York City, he made it where you needed ID in order to shovel snow and make money in New York City when there was a big storm that hit the city. You needed ID, ladies and gentlemen. When you went down to the transportation depot to grab a shovel and start shoveling snow for $30 an hour, you needed ID, ladies and gentlemen. So, you cannot tell me that you need ID in order to shovel snow in the streets of New York City. But forget about voter ID. What you need ID to vote for? You're only determining the person who runs the country, governs the country, and makes the laws. What do you need ID for?
I mean, that argument went out the window for them. There's no question.
I don't understand. I know you were born and raised in Queens. I know your roots is definitely New York. I know you a Knicks fan, and it breaks my heart to see what the Pistons are going to do to the Knicks. However,
I thought I liked you, bro. I thought I liked you. You got to do that to me, bro. I mean, you got to do that. All right, go ahead, man. Go ahead, man.
However,
okay.
I have to say that you must be disappointed in what is happening in New York. And I'm not even talking about with 𝗤𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. I'm not just talking about with Zoran Mamdani. I'm talking about city council. I'm talking about Eric Adams. Everything that has transpired over the last 5 years in New York has ultimately led to you guys electing somebody that hasn't even been born inside of the United States of America, and y'all married today. So it bothers me. It bothers me that this country, is going the way that it's going.
You use the word disappointed. Nah, bro, I'm scared. I think New York is going to be an unmitigated disaster. I'm scared as hell. I already moved out the state, bro. I already bought a house in Florida. I ain't gonna lie to you. I already bought a house in Florida. I'm like, hell with this. This is an absolute mess. So you have your points. I'm just saying that you're making points about the Democratic Party. What would you say about the Republican Party? You're not about to sit up here and act like they're paragons of virtue, right? And that they're always honest and straightforward. We're not going to do that, are we?
Of course not.
No, I think that Bush II was the worst president in my lifetime. I absolutely hated him because of the things that he did to the economy. That was the worst time of my life. I went broke. I think that Obama inherited a mess. I don't think that everything that Obama did was wrong. I actually think that Trump's policies more or less align with what Obama was doing in 2008, 2009, 2010, right? If you look at Nancy Pelosi's policies back in 96, right? If you look at what Joe Biden said that he stood for, if you look at what Obama represented, those are the same things that Trump represent. They want to make it seem like, well, him deporting illegal migrants is such a bad thing. Obama deported over 3 million people.
That's a fact.
In his terms,
Trump
didn't even deport 1 million people in his first term in office.
That's a fact.
I don't think that what Trump is doing is so radical. I think
it's
that what he's doing is more closely aligned with what moderate Democrats was doing back in the 90s.
So with that being said, is it fair to say that you wouldn't be against the Democratic Party if it represented what those Democrats represented back in the day, that your real problem is with the progressive movement that appears to have taken part?
Yes.
And that's
which it has.
Absolutely not. I believe in less government. I believe that people that are here, they should be here legally. I don't believe in men and women's bathrooms. I believe in smaller, much smaller government.
All progressive thinking.
Taxes. I don't believe that you are independent. I think that you are conservative. I think you're a Republican. And not just with your dollar. I think that you are a Republican, but I don't think that you are willing to admit it openly because of the backlash that comes along with the Black community and not supporting people that aligns with the Democratic Party.
He putting Stephen A. out there.
I'm glad you brought that up. Because allow me to retort to that. I don't give a shit what people say. If I feel what I feel, I'm going to stand on it. My challenge is knowing what I'm talking about. You study politics more than I do, along with various others. And so because of that, there are times that I'm simply uncertain about a position.
Okay.
And because I'm uncertain about a position, I lean on the same old, same old. Like, for example, I'm about the economy. I want a strong economy, okay? So I'm about free market capitalism. but I like some safety nets, not just free market capitalism and let's minimize government involvement to the nth degree. I think that
like
makes
what?
me,
What safety nets?
No, I'm just talking about, well, when you talk about economically speaking, I don't want over-regulation, but I don't want zero regulation either. You see what I'm saying? And in a binary system, they force us to pick a side. So for me, when I say I'm an independent, I'm like, damn, there's certain things that I lean a little bit here to the right, and then I lean a little bit here to the left.
I don't think that the Republican Party forces us to pick. I don't. The Republican Party.
No, I'm just answering your question about me. I'm just answering your question about me, just for clarification purposes.
That's fair.
With immigration, the only I totally supported Trump closing the borders because Biden opened them. If Biden had never opened them,
why not vote for him? Why not vote for him?
Because first of all, I've said this on many occasions. I would have voted for Nikki Haley. I would have voted.
Disgusting. No.
Definitely for Nikki Haley.
No.
Possibly DeSantis. I didn't like his remarks about good points about slavery. So I probably because of that I didn't appreciate that.
DeSantis is.
But I will tell you for the most part, him, and I would vote for Marco Rubio. I wouldn't hesitate. But also know this about me, because I'm glad you asked, because I heard you touching on some of my politics with some of your cliques, and I was like, I can't wait to speak to this brother, right? And I said to myself, I said, listen, I don't blame him for feeling that way because he don't know me, and I've never really discussed a lot of this. But I said, listen, if you're sitting back and it's like, all right, it's immigration, follow the Obama policy, go ahead and keep that policy in place, I would have supported that. When you talk about safety in the streets, damn right, you ain't getting out of jail the same day you get in jail, not on my watch. Oh,
Thank you.
So in that regard, yeah, I'm more conservative than liberal. But entitlement programs are more liberal than conservative. I think the desolate and disenfranchised, because I think the desolate and disenfranchised need a helping hand from time to time. I know it helped me and my family. Now, we didn't lean on it, we didn't depend on it, we didn't live off of it for decades.
And see, that's where the problem lies, Stephen A. Come on. You're smarter than this. But I have to respect Stephen A. for exactly what he's standing on business. He's standing on what he has said in the past, and he's explaining to Anton exactly why it is he will not lean more towards the conservative Republican side. I get it. He has the right to. But at the same time, exactly what he just said about leaning on government programs where most people do and they live off of it and they stay on it forever and ever, we cannot allow that to happen, because those programs are supposed to be stepping stones. They are supposed to be programs to get you out the hood. They're supposed to be programs to get you out the trailer park. They're supposed to be programs to give you to lend you a helping hand when you need it, because we all fall. We're not perfect. So you may be at the top one day and then at the bottom the next, and you need some help to get back on your feet. That's why those programs were created. That's what they were meant to be used for. But you have it where certain people, certain groups, certain sides, they want to allow people to stay on them forever because everyone is just helpless and everyone just needs help all the time. All the time.
But to get a helping hand, to uplift yourself, sometimes I think that's needed, and it doesn't bother me. So I'm pro-choice, because I don't believe in telling a woman what to do with her body.
Oh, Stephen A. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've seen exactly what they do when they delete a baby, take a baby out of a mother's womb, and how they dump the baby, and then how they transport the baby in a trash bin, you would be disgusted. But some of y'all don't have to see that. You don't even look it up. You don't want to see it. But you are still pro-choice. And I get it. You have the choice. It's your opinion. It's your world. I'm just living in it. But y'all have to understand something. A life is a life. And I don't care how small it is, how minute it is. It's still a living creature.
So those are the reasons why I would call myself an independent who leans a little bit left instead of right, to clarify.
But here's the thing, though, Stephen A. The Republican Party is not distancing itself from people that's choosing to live their life the way that they want to live it. That's not the position, and that's how it's marketed from the Democrat Party. Okay. There's plenty of gay people, there's plenty of people that live alternative lifestyles that are a part of the Republican Party.
That's a fact.
What the Republicans are basically standing for is we should not be allowing for children to transition themselves, or for parents to transition children before they become of age. We should not
totally
allow
agree with that.
But see that, that's the thing.
I agree
it's not
with you.
that Republicans are radical. They're not radical in their stance against anything. They believe in, freedom of religion, for you to be able to practice however you want to practice.
Right.
They're not trying to abolish gay marriage. None of that stuff is existing, right? That is a marketing ploy. But Democrats are extreme in their push for it in order to align themselves with certain groups. No,
that's in the day.
Office.
All right, I got
since
that.
Obama been in office.
But I grew up in the 80s and the 90s and what have you, and
it wasn't like that then.
From the Reagan and the H.W. Bush
it wasn't. Yeah,
administration.
it wasn't
so you
like that.
Take that into consideration, and maybe I dropped the ball because I'm thinking about Republicans and conservatives, and I'm thinking about what the party had always been,
what they were
until McCain was running, and I'm
That's
looking
right.
at it from that lens. That's all I'm going to. But let me get back to you.
Hold on, but let's stay on the my body, my choice part.
Sure, no problem.
Republicans are not removing women's rights to do what they want to do with their body. The only thing that they're saying is, we don't want that to be the responsibility of the federal government. If that's what you want, then you can vote for it on a state level.
In your city.
That's all they're saying. But see, the miscommunication is that they're completely against it. I can disagree with your lifestyle, but still respect your right to do what you want to do because
that's
we're
a fact.
By the Constitution.
That's a fact.
You see what I'm saying? Like my ultimate thing is, we are a republic governed by the Constitution, and so we're protected based off of our rights, our amendments, our right to carry, right? All of these things. Trump is the only person that's protecting and going against birthright citizenship for illegal migrants, leveraging that when that was literally made for Black people and slaves. I don't see anything that he's doing policy-wise when he's when he's developing a lot of these things that create criteria for people to meet the expectation in order for them to get certain things, even when it comes to government services and help and food stamps and Section 8 and all of that stuff. They're not getting rid of it. They want to remove the people that are taking advantage of it. From a perspective.
Let me throw.
That's a fact.
Let me throw this scenario about you. Do you have siblings?
I do. 3 brothers, no sisters.
All right, so you don't have any sisters. Okay, so it's a difficult question to ask you, but I'm gonna try anyway because I have 4 daughters. I have 4 older sisters, right?
Okay.
So you feel the way that you feel, but your sisters come up to you and say, "You ain't a woman. I am, and we need this." And what he or they are proposing is against us. Now, that's not a community backlash. That's not worrying about what the public thinks. But I'll be damned if I didn't hear my sisters come in my face and remind me of the fact that you were raised by 5 women, and we don't appreciate what he and them, meaning the GOP, are attempting to do when it comes to our rights as women. I'm asking you, what are you supposed to say, think, and feel in that particular scenario?
Ladies and gentlemen, I know exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about deleting babies again. And the problem with that is we are not talking about using deleting babies as birth control. My body, my choice. We get it. It's your body, it's your choice. But at the same time, when you start using that talking point as birth control to go and sleep around, get pregnant, and then just decide to toss the baby and then keep pushing, get pregnant again, and then decide to toss the baby, and then keep pushing, that's where we have a problem, people. Do y'all not know what that does to a woman's body? Some of y'all don't even know because you never looked it up. All you know is that, they are trying to take our rights away as women, and we must fight the power. That's all y'all think. That's not what it's all about. It harms a living being, the baby, and then it harms the woman as well, if you did not know this. And so when you go and treat that as birth control, where there's so many other contraceptives where you can avoid getting pregnant if you want to continue having sex casually and leisurely for pleasure, then that's where we have the problem. But of course, y'all are not going to understand what I'm saying, and I hope you still got your thinking caps on because we are here to make y'all think a little.
I want them to tell me what rights is being removed from them, because I know that women often at times react emotionally. And they're letting their emotions dictate their actions, right?
That's a fact.
It's okay for you to be emotional. Everybody has emotions, but I'm not going to let that determine what I actually do, right? And so the thing that I want to understand is the facts. So I would have a conversation with them and I would ask them, what right is it that's being removed from you because I don't see it. I don't see any policy. I don't see any legislation. I don't see anything that's being removed from you from a Republican perspective.
Okay. Anton Daniels right here, straight shooter with yours truly, Stephen A. I want to get to the black community in this regard, because one of the things that, listen, like I said, I don't consider myself a black conservative. I consider myself a black man who is an independent that leans left on some things and leans right. That's me. That's how I think about myself.
You can't be that way, Stephen A. You cannot be that way.
I believe I can. I believe I can.
No.
And we could answer. I will gladly come on your show. We can argue about that all day, every day, bro. I'm happy to. I can't. Oh, come on. Oh, please, man. All you got to do is say the word. Because you say the word, I will come on your show. It's not a problem. It's not a problem at all.
You could do that in sports. You can't do that in popular culture and politics.
Because why?
People in the middle get ran over. You got to pick one side or the other.
45% of the U.S. population is independent right now. I would beg to differ on that. It's climbing.
They not.
If anything, listen, the independent vote, I think, is going to swing the election one way or the other. What do you say to that?
Not. I don't believe.
You don't think that's going to happen?
I don't believe that 45% of the population is independent. I think that they say that as a cop-out for not wanting to.
For not one align.
Exactly what they represent and who it is.
That's a fact.
Conservative. And so what people lean on is to say, well, I'm independent, in order to give themselves an out for what it is that they choose and not to be accountable for who they support. That's what really is happening. See, I don't believe in what people say. I believe in what people do, right? And I think that a lot of times people are peer pressured, especially today in the black community, to vote against their own best interest because it's not popular to do and you can't be a part of the cool kids club. And so even with you, I don't like the fact that you apologize for some of the things that you said, because you were absolutely right, especially and particularly against how Jasmine Crockett was representing herself.
I knew he was going there.
The woke mob decided that they wanted to make you the punching bag and to come after you, and they still didn't and don't support you and didn't accept your apology. But in particular, and I'm saying it's not you, the Don Lemons, the Joy Reids, all of these people, they don't respect you unless you align with what they believe.
That's a fact.
You want to have voices in every part of government, or voices that's different from yours.
But you can only align with me.
But you don't want representation when it doesn't agree with you.
That's a fact.
Like, I can disagree with you on a particular issue, but it doesn't mean that I remove your right to
that's a fact.
Like I contributed to something that happened wrong to her. That was my only issue, but it didn't take away from what I was saying. Yo, acting like that ain't gonna cut it. Yo, that's not gonna win the election for you. That's not gonna win the Senate seat. That's not gonna make you have more power, more influence in the House of Representatives.
That's not who you are.
Sure enough,
that's not who you are.
And Anton is trying to get Stephen A to see that's not your problem. If you spoke the truth, Stephen A. Smith, then you spoke the truth. It doesn't matter what Trump came out and said or how he tried to use it. If you spoke the truth, what are you then apologizing for? That makes no sense at all. That means you are apologizing for being truthful. And we all know that the truth shall set you free. The truth shall set you free, Stephen A. Come on, you are smarter than this. So there's no reason for you to come out there and offer a public apology, which they didn't accept anyway, because again, we all know that they were gunning for you. We all know that they were coming for you. We all know that they tried to cancel you because of what you said, and what you said was truth. You cannot come out here, be a representative in Congress for a certain demographic of people and act the way that you act. You cannot do that. There's a problem with that. The way she was talking, her mannerisms, all of that. You would have thought she was straight out of a Tyler Perry movie. That's a fact. So Stephen A. was not lying when he said that Jasmine Crockett was acting like a ghetto hyena. That's a fact. So if you don't agree with me, leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you think. But other than that, let's continue this video.
About sports. When you talk about sports, you say what you say, and it is what it is.
Yeah, but the point is I have the facts to back it up, not just my opinions. See, when the Detroit Pistons lose to the New York Knicks, so when they lose to the New York Knicks, Anton, right? Okay, I can speak definitively as to why, because the outcome is the outcome. There's nothing subjective about it. So that and I get what you're saying, and I appreciate your comment about that, because a lot of people have looked at me, and even when they've supported me, they've been critical of me from the standpoint, yo, he's talking, but it ain't the same Stephen A. with sports. And I'm like, yo, I got facts to back me up. in politics, this is my perspective, and somebody comes up with something else, I'm listening to you right now. I'm going like this. Well, I did feel this way, but damn, he did make a damn good point here, and he did make a damn good point there. I got to listen. I got to think about that, because that's how it is.
If they would have listened to you, if they would have listened to you,
she would have won. She would have won. She would have won.
We align with that, right? But instead, we're more focused on how we feel instead of the results, which leads back to your original question about having a conversation with your sisters. My goal is to get the best results. And ultimately, sometimes I can't even be the nice person to you because I have to be the best person for you, right?
Okay.
I kind of look at it, especially when it comes to women, because there are women that I still protect in my family and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I can't be, like I have a daughter, and I know that you have a couple daughters. I can't be her friend. I have to be her father. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes she doesn't know what's best for her, which I can lead her through that with a conversation. But more importantly, I need to educate her at the same time. But I still want the best results. And if people really cared about Jasmine Crockett, then they would have.
That's a fact. And that's the problem with the left. That's the problem with Democrats. That's the problem with liberals. It's all about how you feel. They will not speak the truth. It's all about making you feel good. And they could be on your side. They could have your back and all of that. Know that you're doing something wrong, but guess what? They're not going to tell you that you're doing something wrong because of how it's going to make you feel or how they think or believe it's going to make you feel, even though we know that the truth shall set you free.
We're talking to Anton Daniels right here on Straight Shooter. What's the hardest part about being a black conservative?
It's not hard at all. It's not hard at all. It's beautiful. I think that it's like
I have to agree.
Sometimes you got to, I think the true measure of a man is doing the things you don't want to do when you don't want to do it.
That's a fact.
All the time, you don't always want to get up and go to work, right? Because
you don't.
You're tired.
I know I don't.
Being a man is getting up and taking care of business because you got people.
That's a fact.
And I think that we've lost that as men, and as masculinity is continuously demonized in the culture. Sometimes we look at it as a bad thing. I look at it as a badge of honor. So I don't think that there's anything, honestly, I don't look at it. I can't think of right off the top of my head something that I'm bothered by when it comes to being a conservative or Republican, because I just think it's an education process. In the same way that I used to critique and look at other people and say, man, I don't understand why they are Republican, is the light and the insight that I had to get. And ultimately, it was people that stood 10 toes down and didn't change just because they wanted somebody to feel good about them, which gave me some incentive to do my own research. And then that's what led me to being Republican myself.
You said black culture has become, quote, I'm reading from something that you said here, too
trash
oriented.
Trash.
Trashy. The wealth gap is real. The median white household has several times the wealth of the median black household, which I know you know. Where do you draw the line between personal responsibility and at least acknowledging structural barriers that may exist?
I don't believe that there are any structural barriers in 2026. And I think to say that it is disrespectful to the people that was actually civil rights leaders that fought for our ability to do the things that we're doing today. We don't even show up to the polls. And most of the time, especially if it's a local election or it's an election that's off cycle from the national election, we're less than 20% showing up at the polls, but it's people
that's
that
a fact.
For us to vote. Right? We literally can determine our own future today. There's nothing holding us back now. If you
that's
told
a
me this
fact.
100 years ago, 50 years ago, I might have listened to you. I might have took that and said, you know what? There are some things that's preventing us from being what we are. But honestly, most of the things, I would say 98, 99% of the things that is wrong with us is self-inflicted wounds. And life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. So if you're telling me, like, for example, they'll use, schools and HBCUs or whatever. I went to community college and I made my way through corporate America and got to some of the highest levels in corporate America in banking, information technology, UX, UI. I went to community college, transferred over to before I went to community college, I got a job at the University of Michigan. The University of Michigan then helped pay for my education to go to a major university after I transferred from that community college. Why don't we embrace that? Why don't we embrace trades? Why don't we embrace, different cultural norms that's not toxic to us? So.
And I know that some of y'all going to say, congratulations, Anton Daniels. You're one of the few that could do it. No, that's a lie, because I actually did not go to college. And I didn't even graduate high school, ladies and gentlemen, just in case you did not know. I didn't graduate high school. Under the circumstances that my life led me into, I did not graduate. Some things happened. And when I say some things, some bad things happened to me, which did not allow me to finish high school. But I did get my diploma. Yes, of course, I got my diploma later on. But at the time, I was unable to finish. But guess what I did, though? I went out there. I busted my ass. I learned. I picked up a trade. I learned some more. Did some reading, did some research. I worked hard, worked even harder, stayed up nights, got up early mornings and worked even harder. And now I am a part of the 10% of Americans in this country. You heard me correctly. A part of the 10% earners in this country. How did I do it? I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, as y'all love to say Republicans will tell you to do as a black person. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. And don't tell me you can't do the same thing. The only difference between you and I is that you are lazier than I am.
In 2026, if I'm expected to teach my daughter, who just turned 18, that there's something that's preventing her from being successful and she need a leg up or a handout in order to be that, it'll be a cold day in hell before I ever tell her that.
See, you and I disagree in this regard. I believe that when you talk about most of our issues are self-inflicted, I'm just not going as high as the 98% that you threw out there. I think it's more like 70-30 personally. That's what I do. I think it's more like 70-30 in your favor. But I think it's more like 70-30. And here's why. Because I can use the word structural barriers, but then I can turn around when you debunk that and say, okay, no proverbial glass ceiling. I certainly believe that exists. There's definitely a proverbial glass ceiling. Because when you walk into, well, again, you walk in, like, for example, let me use me for example, because you'll appreciate this. So everybody talks about me and they talk about my contract and, you know, I signed this contract with ESPN. All
Beautiful. And congratulations on that.
I appreciate that.
A lot of money.
That. But let me say this to you.
A lot of money.
Bro, it was after I worked in the business for 20 plus years. And if it was after I watched a multitude of people get their paper. So I have this saying, and I'll give you the floor to answer this. I've had this saying. When the white folks catch a cold, black folks catch pneumonia. It's always worse for us. And the system is designed in such a way where it doesn't mean that you won't get yours. It doesn't mean that you can't get yours as a black person. But usually, there's a figurative line, and it's going to be somebody white ahead of you that's going to get it. That's what
Who's ahead of you right now? Who's ahead of you, Stephen A? Nobody. You ain't even.
That's after. But that's after 20 plus years, though.
Nah,
but that means
it don't matter.
Your asshole.
Exactly.
I read your book. I know everything that you went through. I know where you got started. I know what happened at Winston-Salem. I know how you got injured. I know where your inspiration came from, right? I know that you was over in Philadelphia really working your ass off in order to get to the spaces that you in. I know that you took a...
He worked.
I know that you talked to the head of ESPN and he told you that your time wasn't up yet, but you worked your ass off, right? You wrote articles. You did everything that you needed to do. I know that you leveled up and nothing that you did could be taken away from you because you earned everything.
That's a fact.
Have. You didn't run in the Victim Olympics, and I think that you're handicapping other people because
by telling them that's a fact.
Nothing in your book, not one thing that I read in your book, straight shooter,
says you were a victim
of
your circumstance.
Even when it came to your childhood and your father and you describing everything that he did that ultimately led you to becoming the man that you, even when you talked about kids teasing you based off of dyslexia and everything, not one thing in your book did you ever make an excuse for.
Victim.
And say, you know what, I'm a victim. You use that as leverage and motivation to push you further. Yeah. And you are the top dog in the field
right now. That's a fact.
How can you make that argument, Stephen A, when that's not even a reflection of what your life is?
You're handicapping other people.
Just because I'm not encouraging anybody to embrace victim mentality. I apologize if I gave that impression, but I had to be that dog. I had to push through. I had to keep going. All I'm saying is I acknowledged in my own mind some of the barriers that I was going to have to maneuver my way through in order to ascend. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. And I wasn't going to embrace the victim mentality. But it doesn't mean that I was walking around acting like it didn't exist. I just knew I had to overcome it because bitching and whining about it ain't going to get it done. I knew that. That's all I'm saying. That's entirely different than saying it doesn't exist.
When we say that, we give people permission to bitch and whine. And I'm going to just tell you,
say that.
When we sit here and we look at the quote unquote wealth gap, if you really do your due diligence and you study, you'll realize that we demonize and we make the person a litmus, the person that we're chasing, white people. I will tell you that all you got to do is look at the census and look at the income inequalities. And I will tell you that white people are not ahead of us that much. They're about right here. The real people that's generating the most revenue and the highest household income on average are Indians and Asians. Mm-hmm. It's not white people. So why do we use white people as the scapegoat,
as a crutch,
as a measuring stick for what it is that
exactly?
We need to do? And
Victim Olympics.
Business, all of them was doing marketing, and all of them
Indian
was doing a bunch of stuff
and Asian
that they wasn't really trying to do because it was easy for them to stay in school and still qualify for their student aid. They're not picking STEM fields. We're not picking the right curriculums. We're not going into healthcare. We want to always take the shortcut as a culture, and that's
a fact.
The thing that we celebrate the most, that ultimately is the thing that holds us back. The culture is toxic, and we push it and we promote it, and as long as we continue to believe that it's systematic things that's holding us back, then we'll
always be victims. Bingo! Victim Olympics, because the culture pushes what? You gotta play ball, some type of football, basketball, baseball. You gotta play some type of sport. You gotta be a rapper. That's the type of shit we look up to as kids. That's the type of shit we aspire to be. Not the engineers, not the mathematicians, not the plumbers. No, we don't go into STEM like that. No, we push some of the most degenerate types of behaviors out there. The smart kid is the nerd. The smart kid is not cool. Who wants to be the smart kid? I'm black. I gotta be cool. I gotta sag my pants. That's exactly what we push. We aspire to be the rappers. We aspire to be the drug dealers. Even the drug dealers, ladies and gentlemen. We look up to drug dealers more than we do the people who are actually making money out here, the doctors, the nurses. Yes, the business owners, the entrepreneurs. We uplift drug dealers before we uplift them. We look up to drug dealers before we... So you tell me how the culture is not trash. You explain that to me. Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know exactly how you feel about this. If you agree, then leave a comment. If you disagree, still leave a comment. I want to hear your thoughts.
Place that we supposed to be at.
So essentially, I'm willing to concede, first of all, that everything that you just said is on point. What I'm saying to you is me acknowledging whether it's a proverbial glass ceiling from time to time or whatever, it's not the same as, okay, you're encouraging folks to embrace a victim mentality. I might sit up there and tell you the obstacle, but at the end of the day, you still got to overcome it. It won't hear no damn excuses. Like you said, I got 2 daughters. Look, I don't want to hear excuses. You understand? You educated, you smart, figure it out. I'm gonna help you as best as I possibly can. But we ain't adopting and embracing this mentality that there's no way we're going to succeed because there's barriers in our way that are unfair. Get the hell over it and let's figure out how to do it.
I think we push it. Even in 2026, we push it.
Really?
And that's
in
what
2026?
Absolutely. We push it. We push it with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We don't feel like we can get a job unless somebody gives us a leg up.
But diversity, equity, and inclusion, black folks weren't even the primary beneficiaries of it. It was white women.
But you can't sell that to them. You can't tell them that because they still believe that that is something that they need and it's a handicap, but it really didn't even benefit you. And that's my whole point, is that you don't need it if the person that benefited from it the most is the one that you're using as a litmus. Then why would you have it as a part of
That's a fact.
You don't.
Let me explain something to y'all before we go. I had a certain mentality growing up, and it was the mentality that was instilled in me. White folks were ahead of you. White folks are above you. This is how I used to think. You will never make it to where a white person is. You will never make it to where your counterpart is. You will never make it as high as a white person. You will never. This is what I was constantly told. By who? By the black community, people. By the black people around me. The blacks around me. This is what I was constantly told. This is what black children are constantly told over and over again. Sooner or later, you start to believe that shit. Sooner or later, you start to live it. Sooner or later, it becomes your crutch, what you lean on when you're not successful, when you don't make it, when you don't pass this test, when you don't get this job. You start to use that as an excuse. If you get out of that mentality, which is exactly what I had to do, right? Because in the field that I was in, I always told myself that they will never give a higher position, the highest position, to anyone black. such as myself, someone who has tattoos, as y'all can tell, someone who had earrings, someone who had dreads. They will never give it to someone that looks like me. I kept telling myself this. And what ended up happening? I would never get that position. I moved up a little bit in the company, but I would never get that position, the highest position, because I kept telling myself, look who's in that position now. It's not a person that looks like me, so I will never get there. But guess what? Once I changed my mentality, which was approximately, I would say, 8 to 10 years ago, I changed my mentality. And guess what happened, ladies and gentlemen? I'm at the top of my class. I'm at the top of my field. I'm at the top of the food chain. Why? Because I changed my mentality. When I started to tell myself, wait a minute, it doesn't matter what I look like. It's what's up here that actually matters. This is going to get me where I need to get. And you know what happened? I got there. Don't tell me that you can't make it. Don't tell me there's a system that's holding you back, because we all know there was a system created to hold certain people that look like me back. But you want to know what we are able to do in 2026? We are able to write our own history. So open up your book. I want you to start writing in your book. I will make it. There's nothing holding me back. No one is above me, because I will get to the top if I apply myself and I put in the work. That's all you have to do, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, I'm going to end this video. Until next time.
If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content.